So I have always been more of a simple guy. I used to exercise in a park, I used to meditate, I used to watch anime, play some games, learn Japanese, and I was happy living this simple life until I installed Instagram. And little did I know how this was going to change my life. I would see people I know going to some clubs, going to some fancy restaurants, going to some trips. Being an introvert, I don't care about most of these things. But there is no such thing as a pure introvert. No one in the right mind wants to sit at their home 24/7 and be alone for the rest of their life. At the start of my college life, I became more social. I talked to a lot of people, I made a lot of new friends, and it was such a nice experience. But I would see people from my class meeting each other outside the college, going to some fancy restaurants, going to clubs, going to trips, posting some cool photos, and I couldn't do any of it even if I had a chance to because I was too broke at the time. I had no money. Now you can say it is just you being insecure and broke, don't blame Instagram. But what if I tell you Instagram was created for this? So by the end of my college life, I stopped being broke. I experienced some of these things, going to some trips, going to some fancy restaurants with my friends, and when I tried these things, I didn't feel anything special. It was a nice experience for sure, but it wasn't anything out of this world. If someone saw my photos on a trip and they got jealous, I would call that person crazy. But when I see other people going to some trips, going to some fancy restaurants, I feel like I'm wasting my life. The reason being that people only post the best part of their life on social media. When you do something, you have a more realistic experience of that thing. You know everything that happened. You experience the boring parts. In case of going to a trip, you experience the struggle of traveling, the aftermath of being so tired, being so sick, the boring parts. You know exactly what happened on a trip. But when you see someone else on a trip, you only see the best parts. Logically, you know that there are going to be some boring parts, but your brain does not think that far. Your brain only sees the best photos and in the background makes some assumptions based on these photos. It thinks that maybe this person had a very adventurous trip. Maybe they made some new friends on a trip. This person has such an interesting life. And that makes you feel kind of left out. And going to trips was just an example. We are still scraping the surface. You see, almost everything on Instagram is fake. The smiles of the people, fake. The life they are living, fake. Their looks, their muscles, fake. My biceps don't look very great. But with a little bit of manipulation, I can make my biceps go from this to this. There are things like the pump, the shadows, the lighting conditions which you can manipulate, but the models you see online, they go much further than that. There are things like steroids, manipulating your water weight, then there is editing, post processing, artificial intelligence, and in case of girls, there is makeup, there is Instagram filters, which can completely change the way you look. Not to mention the photos you see online, it is one of the hundreds of photos the person has taken and you only see the best photo. When you see these manipulated photos online, your brain compares yourself to these photos. Even if you are good looking, you will feel like you are not good looking enough. So you see these people online having a perfect life. Your brain subconsciously compares yourself to these people. You feel kind of insecure. So you start doing these things, you take some photos and you post them online. Other people see it and they get insecure. And this creates a whole cycle of insecurity. It creates a sort of rat race where everyone is trying to show other people how interesting their life is. And the further this goes, the more insecure people become. And this isn't something I'm making up, by the way. There are research papers showing how your mental health is affected by scrolling on Instagram. And this alone is bad enough, but it gets even worse. There is a new term these days called as brain rot, which is introduced because of short form content, basically TikTok and Instagram reels. So when I used to go to college, I would come home by 4:35 and I would be tired. I want some rest. So to rest, I would scroll on Instagram. I would play some games. And before I know it, a couple of hours has gone by. The time is 6:37, maybe even 8. And because I was so tired of scrolling, I need some break. Yes, I was taking break after resting. Great. I ate something and then finally around 8:39, I can do some productive work. Yes, my productive day usually started around 9 p.m. in the evening. Around 2 years ago, somewhere in the second year of my college life, I deleted my Instagram account. As soon as I would come home from college, I would do nothing for 5 to 10 minutes, eat something, and then start working. The amount of free time I had was insane. And I realized that after coming home from college, when I used to use Instagram, when I used to play games, my brain was tired, it was begging for some rest, but I wasn't giving it the rest. Even when doing some productive work, I could not focus. I was out of energy. I would randomly start scrolling on Instagram. But when I removed these things completely, not only I had more free time, I had a lot of energy. There were no distractions. I could focus completely on the work. And another bonus I found out was my brain was cleaned. You see a lot of short form videos online. You see some cringe things, some model making you insecure. You see some gore maybe. You see some sexual content. And when you go to sleep, the wiring of your brain changes based on these things. These things manifest themselves in your brain. And this isn't bro science, it is neuroscience. It is completely scientifically proven. These things you see, they fuck your brain. Literally staring at a wall for 2 hours is much more productive compared to watching these things. And you only realize the value of these things when you stop doing these things completely. But that is easier said than done. Because these companies like Instagram, they have learned how addictions work. They have created their algorithm in such a way that you get addicted to their platforms. They know exactly what to show you and what to hide from you. You are suffering from mental illness and you don't even realize it. There are some pros of keeping Instagram. You can make new friends, you can connect to your old friends, but in my case, I value my sanity more than I value some shallow relationships. And yeah, delete your Instagram. Thank you so much for watching. And if you want me to help you one to one, then I also do coaching calls, and the link for that is in the description. Thank you so much for watching again, and bye bye.